And hello, are you here to debate?
I am. How's the audio quality? Can you hear me well?
Yep, sounds totally fine on my end. Can I just get your age and pronouns, please, Alex?
29, he, him.
Okay,
Although
and
I don't really have a preference. You can call me whatever you want.
okay, no problem. And what are you calling to debate about today?
Your point number 4. I have an issue with a couple of your premises. I have them written down.
Okay, sure, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me go ahead and roll through these real quickly, and then I can just get your feedback from it, right?
Okay.
So premise 1, any system that requires poverty is a failing system, right? I don't find that to necessarily be true. Taking this to absurdity, systems can be designed to keep people in poverty, while maintaining social and cultural cohesion. You can look at the Roman Republic. You can look at Sparta is another great example. You can even look at like Han Dynasty China. Now, granted, I know a lot of these are from antiquity, but most of these systems weren't broken per se by a fault in keeping people in poverty. They were broken by external factors exacerbating the social unrest that can come from keeping people in poverty. A good example is the Roman Republic, later the Roman Empire. There really wasn't a breakdown in social and cultural cohesion until like the Ostrogoths and the Huns started moving in, and which required Rome to start looking outwards again while also dealing with the social unrest, right? So that's point 1. Point 2, going for premise 2, capitalism requires poverty. I would disagree. It does not inherently require poverty. It does create hierarchical structures of wealth, although which, when it's regulated, and employed, and the government itself isn't corrupt as we're facing today. It generates wealth for the government, which then the government can go and then push down to people who need it. Talking the homeless, the unhoused, I think the new term is unhoused, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. People that are, suffering from drug addictions, like my late mother. People that are dealing with mental health issues that have made them, incapable of reintegrating back into society and living a fruitful life. Now, I will agree that a result of unchecked capitalism does result in poverty, but that does not necessarily make it inherent to the system, right? Rampant poverty and needs are more of an indicator of the health of the system, not as something inherent in it that makes it a failing system. Which, unless you have something to kind of counterpoint to that, which would make your premise 3, or your conclusion in this case, false.
Okay.
So I'm kind of interested to hear what your take on what I've said about point 1 and point 2 is.
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with first.
So let's start with point 1. Let's start at the top, work over down.
Nope. Yep. So first, you said that systems can be designed to maintain cohesion, even if those systems specifically are designed to keep poverty. I would say if there is an impoverished class, there is not social cohesion, especially on the class level. Social cohesion is gone because you have a group of people who are being exploited to maintain the order for everybody else. That isn't social cohesion. But even then, I don't know why social cohesion would be our bar for success of a system. Right? Just because people are living harmoniously wouldn't tell me that the system is not then like succeeding, right? Like there are other metrics, and like I said, poverty, like the simple fact of having a poor class would be the linchpin in keeping social cohesion. Second thing was with P2. You said capitalism doesn't require poverty. I would disagree with this as well, because money is not an infinite resource. Wealth is not an infinite resource. In our world right now, there is a finite amount of wealth that can exist at any given time. At least if you don't want to make every single country have like hyperinflation and money have no value. In order for money to have value, it has to be limited on how much exists at a given time. Wealth is generated, and that wealth goes to specific people. So capitalism, in order for there to be wealthy people, they must take that wealth from somewhere else. And that extraction comes from the lower class. So yes, I would say poverty has to exist because your wealth must be extracted, because it can't just come out of nowhere. The wealth that is generated for the upper class has to come from somewhere, and it comes from the poor class. This is why, again, 65% of all new wealth generated goes to 1% of people. That is an extraction of wealth from the lower class. So I would say that your critiques of those two premises seem to, in my opinion, don't seem to hold.
Okay. And you know what, and that's fair. So I guess to further refine, I have a question in regards to premise one, right? Because with premise two, okay, I can see the logical consistency from how you got from point A to point B. You know, just to kind of give you a little bit of a background myself, I consider myself a socialist. So not quite into the communism level, you know, no offense to anybody that is. I just see it as kind of a pipe dream until we start moving towards a unitary government figure that kind of governs the whole world and its resources, just because of the uneven distribution of resources. But you know, it's something to look to kind of move to. But so moving into, you know, kind of reverting back to point one, right? What is your indicator of systemic success?
Of systemic success? I would say, in order for me to view a system as systemically being successful,
or success of the system.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. In order for me to see an indicator of success in the system overall, I would say that each person in each class of the system should be equal in most metrics, right? They should be equal in terms of value. They should be equal in terms of like, I guess like a system that is engaged in equity as much as it can be would be my barrier, my guard for that. That's what I think I would probably say, if we're just talking about systemic success.
Okay.
Like as small of a gap between the person at the top.
Okay.
Just to make it so much simpler, as small of a gap as possible between the person at the top of the system and the person at the bottom of the system. The smaller that gap is, the larger I would consider a system a success.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and I can track that. I mean, you know, again, myself, you know, kind of seeing things through more the socialist lens. You know, I mean, if you look at the, you know, aside from the social issues that were going on, I'm not sitting here advocating that we go back to the 1950s. You know, granted, because of my melanin content, I wouldn't exactly be harmed by that, but I know several people in my life that would, including yourself, and that's not something socially we need to go back to. But one of the economic heights that we faced was because of the, you know, the incredibly high taxes that were placed on people. You know, I think back then it was like a 90% tax rate on anything above $1 million. You know, don't quote me on that figure. I do believe so. So yeah, I mean, we can absolutely advocate for that. I mean, there's a shared advocacy between you and I, in regards to that concept, at least. So, well, in that regard, you know, just because I've gotten to kind of, you know, express, again, to kind of pull more information out of you on what your basis for premise one is, kind of hear a little bit more about premise two. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I know that you want to go to bed. I want to go to bed. I've got a 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. So I appreciate you. You know, keep putting in the good work, man.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in and thanks for chatting. Hey, thank you all for watching this video. If you don't know me, I'm Jovan Bradley. I'm a leftist content creator who does debates, political commentary, gaming, and more. If this is your first video, thanks for sticking to the end, and I hope you subscribe. I post videos daily, and there are hundreds of past debates on my page for you to enjoy. Thank you to all of my YouTube members. Your continued support helps me create as much as I can. Consider joining. A membership starts at $2.99 and gets you access to our community Discord, early access to videos, and more. Shout out to my Tier 4 members, Ovaltine, Sylvia Snow, Bamji, Emery Imogene, Ayla Ursus, Zurith Moonpaw, Vel, Kelsey K, Jake Gorshander, Matthew Holloway, Kazim, Vampy, Yemye, and Dragon Nerd. Your continued support goes a long way to me continuing the fight for equity, justice, and education. Thank you again for watching.